কমনওয়েলথ মূলত ব্রিটিশ শাসিত যেসব রাজ্যগুলি বা রাষ্ট্রগুলো স্বাধীনতা পেয়েছে তাদের উন্নয়নে শিক্ষা, স্বাস্থ্য, ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য, অন্যান্য দিকেও কিভাবে সহযোগিতা করা যায় তার একটা সম্পূরক হিসাবে কাজ করে। কমনওয়েলথের সদর দপ্তর লন্ডনের মার্লবোরো হাউসে। এর প্রধান হচ্ছেন রানী দ্বিতীয় এলিজাবেথ, কিন্তু প্রধান নির্বাহী হিসাবে কাজ করছেন মহাসচিব রাইট অনারেবল প্যাট্রিশিয়া স্কটল্যান্ড। এই 53টি দেশ নিয়েই কমনওয়েলথ চলছে। এই করোনা ভাইরাসের সময় নতুন করে চিন্তা করার চেষ্টা করছে যে কিভাবে তারা সহযোগিতা করতে পারে। এরই মধ্যে আমাদের মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী শেখ হাসিনা ডিজিটাল বিজনেস কানেক্টিভিটি এই নিয়ে ক্লাস্টার হিসাবে অর্থাৎ গুচ্ছ হিসাবে কিভাবে কাজ করা যায় সে আলোচনার উদ্যোগ নেন এবং সে আলোচনার বিস্তারিত আমরা জানতে পারব প্যাট্রিশিয়া স্কটল্যান্ডের সাথে। চলুন এখন আমরা যুক্ত হই লন্ডনে কমনওয়েলথ অফিসে, যেখানে অপেক্ষায় আছেন প্যাট্রিশিয়া স্কটল্যান্ড। Good morning, Secretary General. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, and salam alaikum to you, and good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam. As we know, the Commonwealth has a role to help the member countries in various ways: education, health, business, trade. But in this kind of situation, this special situation with COVID just running out of control and governments fighting to try and control it and protect the population, we also know that business and life can't stop. It has to go ahead. So we do know this business-to-business connectivity cluster dialogue was held a few days ago in London. Could you tell us what was the goal of this dialogue and what outcomes did you get?
Well, as you know, we are all facing perhaps one of the worst situations the world has seen in more than 100 years. The economic cost of doing the right thing and protecting our people is now very clear, because governments, as with the government of Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina has been a real exemplar of this, have chosen to protect people first and then try to protect income second, because we have to have life in order to have work. And so what Bangladesh did with the Secretariat is put on the business-to-business connectivity cluster dialogue, because the Commonwealth, which, as you know, is 54 nations making up 1/3 of humanity, that's about 2.5 billion people, 60% of whom are under the age of 30, have always supported each other. And so this high-level dialogue was a really valuable opportunity for trade ministers, business leaders from right across the Commonwealth to look at how they can work together to spur a digitally inclusive and green recovery in the face of devastating economic impacts linked to COVID-19. So Bangladesh's leadership in this was absolutely pivotal. And so the Commonwealth Secretariat, in partnership with the government of Bangladesh, organized this event as part of the 3rd Commonwealth Connectivity Agenda Cluster Week. And it was a platform to share experiences, to hone strategies for enhancing trade in the rapidly expanding digital economy. But also, it was a way that is sustainable for our environment. And Bangladesh has been wonderful in seeking to help all of us to deliver on that Paris agenda. So we had 2 key outcomes. The first is that ministers and the private sector agreed on the importance of digitalization in the post-COVID COVID-19 recovery. We heard some of the steps that governments have taken and will take to support deeper engagement of business in digital trade. And we also heard about how the Commonwealth can cooperate to support the private sector to trade in the digital economy, and that we can do what we can do to connect business with each other. The second thing we did is both government and the private sector from across the Commonwealth agreed on the importance of the green recovery, which means building sustainability into both government and business plans. It also means supporting business to transition to a more resilient and sustainable models. And we're working hard now to translate these ideas into concrete initiatives that we can take forward. So it's not just words. You really have to say, how do we help our people? You'll know that small and medium-sized businesses are predominantly run by young people and women. So we've really got to get our economy back up and going. And it's great to see the vitality, the vibrancy that was put into this by Bangladesh. It was remarkable. And I think it was a proud day for Bangladesh, but it was an even prouder day for the whole of the Commonwealth, because this was a real demonstration of our solidarity and that we are a real family. We love each other, we care about each other, and we're going to try and protect each other during this very terrible time.
Well, our Honourable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, has been taking efforts and leading the government in digitalisation all over the country. A number of our services are now available online, which were previously not. And a lot of effort is going into the area of agriculture in particular. Now, I have to ask this question. Well, I do know, as Secretary General, you speak for the entire group, but I must ask you, how is the Commonwealth supporting countries like Bangladesh, especially in terms of building back our economy?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right to highlight the leadership role that Sheikh Hasina has taken, not just in relation to digitalization, but in relation to showing how you can respond creatively to the needs of your people. Now, the whole Commonwealth has come together, and we have looked together at what we have. Because if you look at the situation we're in, we are facing some critical issues. The global economy is likely to contract by a staggering 4.3% in 2020, which could send an additional 130 million people into extreme poverty. And world trade will decline by at least 9%, the equivalent of about 245 million jobs will be lost. And South Asia is experiencing perhaps its worst ever recession, by 7.7% in 2020 after growing 6% annually in the past 5 years. So what we have looked at is what joins us. How can we accelerate? How can we make these opportunities that Bangladesh and all our other 53 countries need? How can we pool our knowledge, our understanding, and make a difference? And we've got some really good indications as to how we can do that. The Commonwealth Secretariat has done a lot of the analysis. And what we identified was that Commonwealth trade up until 2019 was worth about 700 billion. That's the intra-Commonwealth trade, the trade we do with each other. But the analysis we've made looks as if it would be possible, and we're aiming for this, to reach 2 trillion by 2030. And the impact of COVID has been devastating. But if you look at our history, there are things that we can do as a Commonwealth and the Secretariat can promote, which will enable us to address this. So over the years, following the global financial crisis back in 2008, the Commonwealth's overall exports of both goods and services grew at a faster rate than the world average. So the Commonwealth exports in goods grew by 8%, compared to only 5.5% for the world from 2010 to 2018. And so what we have done in the Secretariat is aggregate those things that worked, try to disaggregate those things that didn't work and help our member states to take advantage of what we are calling the Commonwealth advantage, which enables our member states to trade up to 20% within the Commonwealth than that with the non-members at a 21% lower cost. So we're looking at what works, what doesn't work. We know that digital trade and e-commerce offers significant opportunities, but how do we make sure that we all get there? So investing in a nature-friendly global economy could generate more than 10 trillion US dollars in annual business opportunities and 395 million jobs worldwide by 2030. Now, this is why the Commonwealth has launched the Commonwealth Connectivity Agenda, because that agenda that we just had, the business-to-business cluster, will really help countries like Bangladesh trade more. So the Connectivity Agenda is a flagship program of the Commonwealth that aims to boost trade amongst Commonwealth countries to reach that 2 trillion by 2030. And we know we can do this.
Those are some staggering numbers, scary in fact, about unemployment, about health issues, about business transactions, and how the worldwide GDP or growth is going to shrink. And that will impact heavily on the lesser developed countries.
Absolutely.
So what are you prioritizing to increase intra-Commonwealth trade and investment? And how will the Commonwealth and Bangladesh in particular work?
What we are looking at is the practical things that we can do. So, for example, we have a huge advantage because our countries speak the same language. We have similar infrastructure. We have similar issues in relation to the rule of law. Our institutions operate in the same way. So we've got a mirrored procedure. This is where the 20% Commonwealth advantage comes in for trade, because within our Commonwealth, we can trade with each other at a 21% lower cost on average. And it's like, the fact is that we had historically not taken advantage of this advantage that we have had of being together, growing up together, speaking the same language, having the same systems. So what we in the Secretariat are now doing is not only pointing out those advantages, but we're with our countries, and this is what Bangladesh is doing, and leading on the business-to-business cluster, we are saying, how do we practically convert this Commonwealth advantage into real opportunities so that we do get more jobs? How do we exploit the green and the blue, which we have committed ourselves to? How do we share the things that work, but how do we make sure we're also sharing with each other, with all the member states, what does not work? Because the only way we're going to get through this is by coming together and being what we've always been, which is a family. So this family of nations have been absolutely inspiring because we aren't thinking just of ourselves. Bangladesh has been brilliant in reaching out and saying, this is what we've created for Tracker. This is what we've done in relation to the blue economy. This is how we think business can work. But the echo from across the Commonwealth and the other 53 countries has been, we agree. We are going to join together. We're going to make this business easier. And remember that 19 of our members come from Africa. Africa has just launched the African Free Trade Area. There's a huge opportunity to share knowledge, to share expertise, but also to help with trade. We've created the small and medium-sized enterprise networks that we are strengthening, and we are answering the questions as to what does business need to trade well and quickly and effectively and to recover across the Commonwealth. And how do we quickly put those measures into being. And that's what's been so wonderful about the Commonwealth connectivity agenda, because we know that we can't leave anyone behind. And we're all suffering during this time. The countries, for instance, like Bangladesh, who have always exported some wonderful clothing to the rest of us, nobody's buying at the moment because we're on lockdown. How do we recover quickly? How do we make sure that this trade is revitalized? And so it's critically important what the Secretariat is doing on the analysis, on creating the platform, and increasing the resonance and the relevance of the digital economy. This is going to be our new future. And the Commonwealth survey that has just come out, the economic responses to COVID-19, highlighted three key issues. One, that the pandemic has driven a high level of e-commerce adoption. Second, the drive to e-commerce has exposed the digital divide. And respondents pointed out that despite the increase in e-commerce, its full potential is not yet realized. And almost 3/4 of the respondents said the consumers cannot fully utilize e-commerce. And third, the governments are being more proactive to support the private sector, especially the micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. So the survey really helped us by revealing the shift in government spending priorities to respond to the pandemic. And while it's well known that governments have invested heavily in the health response, what was a surprise was for almost 1/4 of the respondents, the private sector support for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises was the second largest expenditure priority, and that was in the form of financial support. So we will be defining and focusing on how we support our members to address these challenges. And Bangladesh, as the lead on business-to-business connectivity for the whole Commonwealth, plays a very important role by working hand in glove with the private sector to ensure that our initiatives respond to the needs of our private sector.
The first response of our Prime Minister was to announce incentive packages, stimulus packages for the most affected industries. As you say, clothing was number one on the list. But even in normal times, the small business enterprises have difficulty in market access. Now, has there been any consideration on how these small businesses can be tagged online for, as you say, online purchases?
If you look at what is happening right across the Commonwealth, and this is really for all our countries, small and medium-sized businesses are critical to our growth. And so the concentration on the small and medium-sized enterprises has already started. We launched first in India the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Network. We then went to launch a similar network for the Pacific, Asia Pacific. We then launched, we did in the margins of the Commonwealth Games in Brisbane. We then launched the Africa SME Network in Kenya, and the last to be launched should have been the Caribbean SME launch, which should have happened this year, but because of COVID, that hasn't happened. Now, the concentration, therefore, that we in the Secretariat and our member states has been on how do we accelerate the opportunities for our small and medium-sized businesses. And the fact that our laws are very similar and our structures are very similar gives us an opportunity for interoperability. So in the last decade alone, the economy grew in size by 188%. So that was averaging 6% growth per year. And a key feature of Bangladesh's economic landscape is ensuring that 100% of ICT access for the people at grassroots. So what Sheikh Hasina has done by leading on this, and Bangladesh has steadily improved its economic and development prospects and is expected, as you know, to graduate from its least developed status to developing country status in 2024. The example of how Sheikha Hasina, through her leadership, has done that is really interesting, and people have really been quite excited and impressed by the reality that she has delivered. So in this increasingly digitalized world, this could support the economic growth at community levels and more equitable wealth distribution through increased access to e-commerce and other digital platforms. So our concentration has been, how do we do that? How do we put power
the words you use actually lead me on to my sort of next question, and that is that equitable spread of wealth and equity in society. These were, what should I say, the main objectives behind our father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to, bring to his country, to the people. Now, as you know, and you've spoken of this yourself, this is the centenary anniversary. Would you have a message for us?
Do you know, Sheikh Hasina really deserves full credit for the incredible achievements of her government since she has become Prime Minister. But I know that her inspiration has come from the father of the nation. If you look at the things that she has striven to do, she really is her father's daughter. And you can see the seeds for the success were sown by the father of the nation, who first foresaw and advocated a future for the independent and economical viability of Bangladesh, and then faced the unenviable and difficult task of building a new nation from the ashes and destruction of the war for independence. So Bangla Bandhu was instrumental, I think, in building the foundations for the modern state of Bangladesh and for carving a place for Bangladesh on the international stage, including in the Commonwealth, which Bangladesh joined, as you know, in 1972. So I think there is no accident that he was voted the greatest Bengali of all time in the BBC organized poll in 2002. It is a great time to celebrate him, but I think it's a great time to remind us also that this advance takes sacrifice, it takes dedication and selflessness, and an opportunity to understand that all of us are equally in need of freedom and support. And if one of us is not free, then none of us are. So I think he was a great exemplar. It's a wonderful moment to celebrate his legacy. But I think in this terrible time, we have to also remember his courage, his fortitude, and his selflessness, because it was that courage, the fortitude and selflessness that enabled Bangladesh to come into being. So I think there's a lot for us to remember at this time, and there's a lot to give us courage too. So I think Bangladeshis should be proud of what they are doing. I think they should be proud of what Sheikh Hasina has done, because she stands out with a number of other leaders in this time of stress and difficulties as a leader who has kept her eye on her people and what her people need.
Yeah, that you've just said that Bangladesh has taken the lead in this discussion on business-to-business connectivity, cluster dialogue. Is there anything specific that you'd like to say about Bangladesh's relation with the Commonwealth?
Well, Bangladesh has been a cherished member of the Commonwealth since 1972, when she first became a member, and has actively engaged in various programs in the Commonwealth, not only in trade, but also on ocean health, youth empowerment, countering violent extremism, sport, and so many other things. For example, Bangladesh hosted the third Faith in the Commonwealth workshop, which was supported by the minister, Sikda, who was the former state minister for youth and sport, and Bangladesh is a member of the Blue Charter action groups. So that's on the Commonwealth Clean Ocean Alliance, which is all about marine plastics and making sure that we clean that up. They're part of the mangrove ecosystem livelihoods, the ocean and climate change, sustainable blue economy, sustainable aquaculture. Your foreign minister leads on the group now, which looks at a number of our countries. In every single area, Bangladesh is at the forefront. Now, this isn't just walking the talk, it's delivering partnership advantage to all of us. And I think the Commonwealth stands ready, therefore, to support Bangladesh in its development aspirations, especially through these difficult times, as the Commonwealth family always does. Your High Commissioner in London is a total gem. And the leadership that your foreign minister has shown, how can we not celebrate it? We're so thankful that the passion, the energy that Bangladeshis bring, the spice and flavor, is something that we have greatly benefited from and we much need, much need.
Thank you so much for your time and your views. Please be safe and well, and we look forward to talking again in the near future.
Absolutely, and God bless Bangladesh. So please be safe too. And can I just say bless you, thank you for your partnership, for your support, and for being part of our family, because we value Bangladesh greatly.
Thank you. দর্শক, এতক্ষণ কথা বলছিলাম কমনওয়েলথের মহাসচিব প্যাট্রিশিয়া স্কটল্যান্ডের সাথে। তার মাধ্যমে আমরা যা শুনেছি যে বাংলাদেশ আজ শুধু সদস্য নয়, আমাদের মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রীর নেতৃত্বে আমরা আজ ব্যবসা বাণিজ্যে কিভাবে প্রযুক্তি ব্যবহার করে এই অবস্থা, যে অবস্থার মধ্যে আমাদের ব্যবসা বাণিজ্য চলছে, তার থেকে আমরা উতরে যেতে পারি, সেই কাজ করার ব্যাপারে তিনি উদ্যোগ নিয়ে এই আলোচনাটা করেছেন। আপনাদের সকলকে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। আবারও আশা করছি আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, নিরাপদে থাকবেন।